Hello there, my Gumminess, and welcome back to the Echo Chamber. Now, getting back into what if Krillin trained with King Kai after being killed by Tambourine? I'm going to be getting into a very quick recap, as there is a full video detailing the entirety of the Namek arc, which is currently on the channel, which you guys can go ahead and watch if you want the full entire context of the entire arc inside of a long video format for you to be able to consume. Now, getting into this quick recap, we last left off with the final battle between both Frieza and Goku, where Goku ended up emerging victorious, but not having a way off Namek, he ends up finding a ship. This being Frieza's ship at first, but due to the fact that he wasn't able to get it to work, he still ended up finding the Ginyu ship. Now he ends up leading off planet, and he ends up going to Yardrat. Now back on Earth, the rest of the gang obviously ended up making it safe thanks to the wish by Dende, and everything pretty much goes smoothly from there. This would include the eventual relocation of the Namekians and also the revival of the people who end up losing their lives on Namek, including Krillin, as well as the rest of the Z team who had died in the previous arc during the Saiyan saga. And with that being said, we'll be going ahead and getting into the introduction for this new arc right now.
Last night took a L, but tonight I bounce back. Wake up every morning, by the night I count stacks. Knew that ass was real when I hit it, bounce back.
Alright guys, so getting into this brand new arc for the What If, I actually want to go ahead and I know, I said they were going to be irrelevant by the time we get to this arc, but I actually want to go ahead and showcase for the final time what I believe. There's a lot of speculation here because there's nothing really truly concrete, and you've probably seen like 1,000 of YouTube videos, articles on Reddit or whatever have you, displaying these things differently. But I want to go ahead and introduce what I think are the final set of power levels I think everyone would pretty much be at in terms of like a quote-unquote consistency based on the lore and the canon and things of that nature, what I think personally they would be at. And that's pretty much what I'm going to start off by showing you guys before we get into anything else. And it'll just be on your screen right now, as you can already see. But pretty much just them as the main bulk and quote-unquote discussing these power levels. Anyway, moving on. Now to start off this part, we're actually going to be transitioning over there to Yardrat to deal with the fallout of Goku landing on the planet, as he will have the most significant change going forward in this beginning portion of the story. That being that, unlike in canon, Goku already knows the instant transmission. He had ended up learning it from Krillin and had refined it during his training with King Kai, so therefore, i.e., there is no need for him to learn it from the Yardratians. So I'm actually going to be having him learning more of their techniques, things such as giantification, cloning, and spirit fission, as well as of course honing his Super Saiyan transformation the same way he did in canon, thus increasing his overall strength and bettering his refinement. Goku, after crash landing on planet Yardrat, ends up being discovered by the Yardratians, who end up taking him to Bar. Bar, after giving him a quick scan and look over, recognizes that Goku doesn't have any negative or evil intentions, and is actually able to see that he has been through a lot of stress. So basically what they do is they nurse him back to health, all the same way that they did in canon. But once Goku wakes up, instead of, going through the same process that he did in canon, where he ends up learning his transmission and just focusing on honing in his Super Saiyan, he actually already knows that. The Yardratians basically pointing out the fact of what planet and stuff that he is on and what species they are, which Goku is indeed somewhat familiar with given the fact of the technique he knows, which he does indeed show off. The Yardratians are actually surprised that he ends up knowing this technique, as they didn't know that other people around the universe had actually been able to discover some of their techniques. But given the fact that he had it, they figured that he is probably a very spiritually in tune person. Therefore, i.e., if he can learn one of their techniques, he can probably learn several others. So Bar ends up approaching Goku with a proposition, which Goku gladly accepts, which just ties us nicely into the idea of Goku spending a year like he did originally on the planet where he would train. Except this time around, I'm not going to just have him spend a year, but actually a year and a half. So he's going to go a year and 6 months rather than just a normal typical year, which he does inform the rest of the group back on Earth, of course, because they end up making the wish in order to bring him back to life because they believe that he was dead, but turns out that he wasn't dead. And he basically says that in the next year and a half, he will be returning back to the planet after he trains with the Yardratians in order to be able to learn their techniques and hone in on his skills and things of that nature. It ends up having a positive effect on the group, everyone pretty much choosing their own path and how they want to be able to achieve strength in the next year and a half. With the Z team, that being Yamcha, Tien, Chaozu, etc., actually continuing the methods of training that they learned from both Krillin and King Kai, basically holding their skills around the idea of using Kaioken and things of that nature. With both Krillin and Piccolo, especially given their bonds and everything they went through on Namek, deciding that they would be the ones to be able to help each other the most when it comes to honing their skills and growing further stronger in terms of the training and the things that they can learn. This just leaves Vegeta, who like in canon will be pursuing the path of Super Saiyan. However, this time he actually won't be doing it alone, and the effect that this is actually going to be having on Vegeta is not only going to be one to start to change his ways and actually gain him more sentimental value and things of that nature when it comes to the nature of family and stuff, so he's actually going to be kind of going through his later character arcs in Dragon Ball Z, that's a bit early. I'm not saying that he's entirely a good guy, because right now he's still pretty much a certified villain, but I am saying that by the time we see, once we get it more into the Android arc and stuff like that, you're going to see a bit more of a change towards the way he was at the end of the Buu arc. And this is mainly going to be due to the fact that Gohan will be joining this time in the pursuit of Super Saiyan. Given the fact that, yes, whereas he is, very much on the idea of still learning the Kaioken, or at least, learning it to a point where he can hone it better and be able to have better uses of it and longer lasting uses of it, he feels that Super Saiyan is a far more better form to be able to learn, given the fact that he saw what it can do for Goku. So essentially, Gohan is basically trying to follow after Vegeta, because he feels that, given the fact that Vegeta is also a Saiyan, that he'd probably be the best one to follow on that path. Now, this is something that is brought up to him by Krillin and Piccolo, that it'd probably not be the best thing, especially given the nature of Vegeta, but at the same time, at least under supervision, they're willing to entertain the idea and understanding Gohan's logic and the path in which he wants to choose, and seeing that he's actually a bit more mature for his age, despite being so young, that understanding what he wants is probably the best way to go about it in terms of developing his own strength and allowing him to actually go stronger in the way that he chooses to. Now, I know that people are going to bring up the whole Chi-Chi thing and how is that going to work, with Chi-Chi, but the way I basically square that away is in the idea that not only is this actually going to have a benefit in actually keeping Vegeta on Earth, given the fact he won't just try to run off into space, like take the Cap's core ship and just get out of there, is because of the interest in Bulma. Bulma basically going to Chi-Chi, and kind of like squaring this whole thing away, talking about the education that Gohan could actually have over there, given the fact that Bulma is, of course, really smart, and is considering all the education that he learned in space. He actually does show some of this to Chi-Chi, showcasing, all the different things he learned about the different species and things of that nature, showcasing that he was actually learning on his trip and stuff through space, and so she's much more okay with it, although she's not too trusting of Vegeta. But basically, Krillin and Piccolo did say that they would be doing supervision of it and won't just, be letting Vegeta do whatever he wants. But like I said, I think that this is the best path for Gohan, and I think that anything else other than minutia details can kind of like be squared away, because I still think that, obviously, given the situation, Bulma would still let Vegeta come and stay at her home and things of that nature. So therefore, i.e. Gohan can just go right over there. He would also be studying, but at the same time being allowed to get stronger in training and things of that nature. But unbeknownst to the group, out there in space, it turns out Frieza did not actually die in the planet explosion when Namek blows up, and King Cole actually finds him just like he did in canon, and basically ends up restoring Frieza, so we are getting Mecha Frieza. However, there is actually a change here that will allow us to be more congruent within the new timeline. That being that, unlike in canon, Goku did not give the energy to Frieza like he did on Namek, so Frieza is actually much closer to death, thus it would take longer. By longer, I mean it's going to take the entirety of the year and a half. Now, of course, although I know some of you may not like it, we will be skipping over the messy details of exactly what's going on, as the only real benefits I can see going forward with the training are, of course, Goku learning more techniques, everyone else learning how to use Kaioken better, and I do not believe that Vegeta nor Gohan would achieve Super Saiyan, but however, like I said, I already pointed out the benefits of that relationship and giving Vegeta, a better sense of character and actually turning him somewhat over to the good side, especially due to Gohan's influence, and Gohan actually giving a little bit more into his Saiyan side, so he's actually more catered to fighting versus his studies, but he still does studying. And of course, Piccolo and Krillin increasing their bond, and also, Piccolo and Krillin learning better uses of their techniques and actually going off of each other, so I don't really see anything necessarily changing that's going to be too big when it comes to his training arc, so we're basically going to say it came and went essentially, but yes, they did indeed increase in their overall powers and abilities and gain new things in that nature. With that being said, the year and a half came and went. And just like in canon, Frieza along with King Cole ends up arriving on the planet, basically looking to exterminate all life as well as get revenge on the Super Saiyan who ended up defeating Frieza. Now, I will actually be having Trunks show up in this timeline, but this time he's actually going to show up just a bit late. And so what's going to happen is that Frieza ends up sending out his men in order to be able to scout out the planet and see where any life forms are. Now, the Z-Team is already there and they have showed up, and they of course intervene, pretty much wiping out every soldier that ends up coming their way. And right as they're about to engage with Frieza, that is indeed when Trunks shows up, meaning that he actually only showed up like a few minutes late from what he did in canon. Now, there are actually some notable differences with this Trunks than the one that we actually got in canon. For one, he's actually older than the original Trunks we got in canon. This is due to the fact that over the course of the year and a half that Vegeta has been spending with Bulma, they actually get together much earlier than they did in canon. Thus, Trunks will be born 2 years from now rather than the 3 that he was in canon, thus making him an entire year older than what he was in canon. Given the fact that right now in the present day, both Bulma and Vegeta are very much not necessarily dating, but are in the midst of kind of like being in a relationship, and in that regards, this is again mainly due to the influence of Gohan, which ended up allowing Vegeta to stay on Earth rather than leaving off into space, and therefore he had more time to cultivate that connection and relationship with Bulma, which we already saw the beginnings of back on Namek. But in addition to being older, this Trunks is actually stronger than the one in canon, given the fact that not only is Super Saiyan stronger, considering when Goku used on Namek he was way stronger than he was in canon, but also given the fact that since Trunks was older, he had better time to hone it. And a little bit of a side note, this actually allowed him to do much better than he did originally against the androids inside of his own future, but he still wasn't able to overcome them. Nevertheless, he basically makes quick work of both Frieza and King Cold, much easier than what he did in canon. Speaking of canon, pretty much things go kinda exactly in the same way, as in Trunks basically tells the rest of the group that they'll have to wait on Goku, they point out to where he's going to be, and they ending up waiting for him to arrive, which instead of actually coming in the Ginyu ship like he did originally, he actually just ends up teleporting there, which he is surprised by the rest of the group's non-reaction to this, not because of the fact that they already knew they can teleport, but they didn't have any idea that he was coming, or so he thought. But turns out Trunks actually informed him of everything that was going on, and how he would be arriving and where he would be arriving. And Goku's like, oh, well, you know, that's neat. Basically, essentially pointing out the fact that he would have been here earlier, but he had already sensed from even back on planet Yardrat that everything had actually ended up being okay. That despite his worry when Frieza and his father both showed up, both acknowledging that they were indeed strong and that Frieza had indeed gotten stronger, he was going to teleport, but once he saw the situation was relativistically handled in a short amount of time, including actually feeling Trunks' power, though he did not know it was Trunks, he essentially assumed that everything was alright. But after feeling that tremendous power, he did end up teleporting right away to see exactly what was going on, but felt that since the threat was past, that's why he took longer. Nevertheless, pretty much from here, the same events transpire as the same way that they did in canon. Trunks takes Goku off to the side and informs of the androids exactly what's going on, and actually ends up giving him the heart virus medicine, again just like he did in canon, and pretty much Goku goes and informs the rest of the group that pretty much 3 years from now, that the androids are going to show up and kill everyone, according to Trunks. And this time around, there's no reason for Piccolo to intervene and end up telling the group on, of course, Goku's behalf, because Goku's actually is able to keep the secret of Trunks' parentage, so therefore, i.e. there is no need. He's able to actually have more tact than what he does originally, and therefore can actually express what he needs to express to the group without exposing who Trunks really is. And so the 3-year training arc in preparation for the androids begins now.
And that was the end right there, guys. So, we're back. I'm officially glad to be saying that we're back, and don't worry, guys, this is actually going to be continuing further into the Android Saga, and we will be going into the Buu arc, and things of that nature, so you guys do not need to worry. And once again, I'm not going to be going on any super long hiatuses, pretty much as far as this video goes, and as far as videos going forward in regards to this what ifs, I am going to be trying to keep to a stricter schedule of getting you guys these videos out. And in fact, this will be the last video of the year, so you guys will be seeing this most likely on the 31st. Now, I am recording this before the 31st, but most likely it will be uploaded on the 31st, and if not the 31st, then like literally right there in the late part of like the 30th, so pretty much the 30th to the 31st. And then that will be the last video for the year, but then next year we're going to be starting off with a bang, and the what if is going to be exploding into this new arc and the arcs going forward, so I hope you guys do appreciate that, and, you know, of course, do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, and blah, 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 and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Desperate for attention, I aim to be your eyes, trophy boys, trophy wives. Applause, applause, no wait, dear studio audience, I've an announcement to make. It seems the artists these days are not who you think, so we'll pick back up on that on another page.